Alright, welcome back to the second part of my MultiSpec image processing tutorial. In this short video, we're going to be talking how to navigate some of the menus in MultiSpec, and also how to set up our classification, set up our parameters for a simple classification. Alright, so let's get into this. So I'm picking up directly off where we left off in the last video here. So we still have our image loaded. In my case, this is the 4-band image of Bridgewater, Virginia. And you may notice this on the side. Well, let's minimize that because we'll be getting there in a second. So once we have an image loaded, we can a lot of these menus then light up. So we've got different things. So we can open other images. We can save the image to GeoTIFF. We can save the project. We can print the image. We can also do edit. We can copy all that. View, project, processor. But processor, this one right here, this is going to be the one we're interested in. But first, let's make things a little bit easier on ourselves. When you're doing classifications, a lot of the times you'll want to set up a false color image just to make some of the classes easier to pick out, especially if you're doing things like agriculture, urban, forest, like we're going to be doing today. So in order to do this, the easiest way, so we'll go back here to our good old front open image. We'll select the image we're working with here. But now on this one, and so for the first one where we set 3, 2, 1, what I've gone ahead here and done, I've inverted all of these. Now, without the presence of my infrared, it's not going to be a true false color composite. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, it should be easy enough, good enough, not easy enough. Well, it is easy as well. So after we check these and leave everything the same, we'll go ahead and hit OK. And what we'll open here is, and you can see I've already done a little bit of classification here in the name of brevity, but it opens the exact same image but with the bands reversed. And as you can see, it makes it a whole lot easier to pick out what's forest and what's agriculture as well as what's urban. Anything agriculture is going to show up as anything urban is going to show up as dark grays and blacks. Agriculture is really going to be highlighted, and forest is going to turn up, all the trees are going to turn up as these white specks. So, now, for the classification itself, to start collecting our training data for our classification, we're going to need to go here to Processor, then down to Statistics. Then will give us this option for Set Project Options. And honestly, right now, this is just for tweaking some of the fine details. For what we're doing right now, it's A-OK just to leave everything as is. And when you hit OK, it will normally, let me find it. It'll bring up this little guy right here. Now, it'll be blank. None of these options will be available. That's all right. So this is where we select our fields and our classes for our classification. So as I mentioned earlier, I've already gone ahead and done some classification, so this video isn't like 40 minutes long and you're just sitting here watching me draw shapes. I figured you all got better things to do with your time than watch some random dude on the internet just draw, it's like, oh, yep, I think that's urban, I think that's urban, I think that's urban. So we'll keep it simple. I'm just going to be doing the forest. The process, though, is the same for any class that you do. So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure our class here says new, and we're going to make sure this box, polygon enter, is checked. What this does, this allows us to draw polygons on the map itself. So now let's actually get to doing that. One thing about MultiSpec that took me a while is the zoom in, zoom out. These two buttons right here, these are going to let you zoom in, zoom out. The bigger one, obviously, zoom in, smaller one, zoom out. I'm not sure why they chose these icons, but what are you going to do, huh? One thing to keep in mind, though, these buttons work on the image that's currently been brought to the front. And by that, I mean whichever frame you've clicked on last. So let's say if I click on this one, right here, this is brought to the front. This is classified as my active window. And when I click, it zooms in, zooms out like that. If I clicked on this one over here, it's going to zoom in this one, independent of this one. Just a small little tidbit in case you're wondering, like, well, I'm clicking on it, but it's not zooming in the one I want. That's why. Also, to pan around your image, hold middle mouse button, and then you can just use your mouse to look around. Additionally, when we're drawing polygons, you can also scroll to the edges of the image. I tend to not like that because it doesn't feel too precise, and there have been many times where I've overshot what I've been trying to do, and then I have to fight to get back into my area of interest. So I find it way easier to just use middle mouse to pan. But enough jabbering on. Let's do this. So we can take this area right here. Yeah, I say this looks like forest. So what we're going to do, once we've got this all selected, new class and polygon enter, we'll go ahead and click on the map, and you can see right here. Whoop, there goes that mouse pad. What you can see in the coordinates LC box is that's the coordinate point of the first area we clicked. So that's going to be our first corner. If we click again, it'll set it here, and I've run into, okay, I know this is super disjointed, but this actually highlights an interesting little glitch in idiosyncrasy. If you mouse scroll by using the edges of the screen, it's gonna cause this little bug, and it'll make your line and cursor appear in an area where it's actually not. I haven't currently encountered a workaround for this, but if it does happen to you, don't worry. It's still working just fine. It'll fix itself when we finish drawing the image. So we'll take it here, and I know this is very hard to see, and I apologize. But you can kind of see we're forming the outlines of our polygon right here. And everything inside of these lines is going to be our polygon. And when you're done, you can just double click. All this information up here will pop. It'll put the number of pixels inside the polygon, the scale, and you see our list here is fully filled out. Awesome. Now to actually add it, because it hasn't been added to anything next, we're going to click this button right here, add to list. And when you're working with the new parameter, you're going to be prompted to enter your class name. So here we'll just call this forest. The field identifier, this is fine. They'll be unique for each one. You can mess with this. I just like leaving them. Now, but the important part right here is area type. This is where we determine what this polygon is going to be used for. So training field is providing the computer basically saying everything inside this is this class. This is what we're going to be used to train our classification on. Test field is what we're going to be comparing against the training fields, just to assess the accuracy of our classification. All right, so now we've selected training field. We'll hit OK. As you can see on this handy dandy little side right here, we've now classified this as forest field 12, even though it's the first field. So next, to capture more fields for classes, we're gonna do a similar thing, except make sure that forest is checked in this little drop down menu. Without this, you'll end up creating 15. Every time you make a new field, you end up creating a new class, and we don't want that because that's going to make it a real headache for our classification. And it's practically going to make it impossible to do with any accuracy. So just like before, we're going to go here, we're going to click around. As you can see, the bug from earlier has fixed itself. So I'm just going to do something real quick and dirty here because we won't be using this for actual field work, so it's okay if we're a little inaccurate. But if you are doing this for any academic or occupational projects, as you know, be accurate for classes, get a good sample size. All right, so we do that. We do add to list, and since we already have our forest class selected, it's already put right here, and we'll mark this one as another training field, just so we have two training fields, and we'll go ahead and capture two more fields, but we'll use these for our test fields. So again, real quick and dirty, because again, y'all don't want to see a guy on the internet just sitting around drawing boxes. Bring it back, do a double click, add the list. We'll make sure it's a test field. We'll set that there. Then for our last little one, go ahead here, click, 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 double click. Ooh, excuse me. Then we'll do that. All right. And now we have all of our classes selected and filled out, and we should be ready to do our classification. Before we do that though, we're going to go ahead here. Let's save our project just to make sure we get everything done. Well, as saving anything, you choose where you want it. We'll just keep the name, we'll put the name as MS tutorial. If I can remember how to spell tutorial. Hit save. That's our project saved. All right. Then meet me back in the next one, and we'll actually do our classification, and we'll assess our accuracy. All right. See you in the next one.